and greetings from Chicagoland. I'm Munira Zahabi, the niche navigator, and welcome to Munira's Musings. I'm your host, podcaster, author, coach, and international speaker. Each week, I bring you insightful conversations with extraordinary individuals who share their unique perspectives and stories. Join me on this captivating journey as we explore new ideas and inspirations. Now, let's dive into today's episode with our special guest.
Greetings from Chicagoland. How are you, everybody? We are here with Stephanie McPhail. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to Munira's Musings.
Hi, Munira. Nice to see you. Bright and early.
Bright and early. So, thank you, everybody, for being with us. Welcome to Munira's Musings, where we explore unique stories of our incredible guests. Each episode is designed to not only highlight their journey, but also to uncover valuable insights we can all learn from. Through our experience and their experiences, we aim to inspire, educate, and empower you in your own path. So sit back, tune in, grab your coffee, and let's dive into the conversations that really matter. So, Stephanie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Stephanie McPhail. First of all, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I've known you for a little while now, so it's good to be able to be on this side of the screen with you. My name is Stephanie McPhail. I specialize in toxic relationship recovery. And the reason why I got so interested in doing this, it became my passion, is because I used to be really good at choosing really terrible relationships and then trying to make them work. And, you know, when I worked with, or when I've realized that in the years of me working with clients, the amount of strong, independent women that are super smart, but stuck trying to figure things out. We are like pit bulls. We don't know when to let go. And so I realized that I needed to help share what I learned with other women to help them learn when to let go so that they could move on and create a better life for themselves.
So I understand what you're talking from. So let's go back a little bit and give people a context. So Stephanie, it helps people get out of broken relationships. Mm-hmm. And so 99% of the time, Stephanie, people will tell you to make it work. Why is that? Why is that? Why do you have to? Why is that such a big taboo?
Well, it's such a big taboo. I mean, the religion, I think, is a big reason for this. I mean, I grew up in a religious household where once you get married, you stay married. And so, and I know, you know, we've spoken, it's one of those things where if we've been told and we've been trained that you have to make it work and it becomes the woman's fault, we are the scapegoats if things don't work out. It's like we're shaming our family. We're embarrassing our family by not making it work. But I will tell you that being in a relationship where you are not supported, where you are not inspired, where you are not able to be free is not doing anybody a service. I mean, if you want to go out there and do the beautiful, wonderful things you were put on this earth to do, it's not by being with someone who abuses you, who treats you badly, who speaks badly about you. That's not, that you're not going to be able to do all those beautiful things. So it's really important to make sure that you know, one of the things we talk about a lot is, well, narcissist, they're a narcissist, or, you know, there's whether or not there's abuse. Is it abusive? My thing that I want you to think about is, how do you feel when you're with them? How do you feel when you're not with them? Because if we feel drained, if we feel like we can't speak up, like we can't, you know, be ourselves, then we're not doing the world a service. So, you know, best to really think about what are the things that you can do to take care of yourself. And if it's something that you need to get out of, what are the action steps that you can take to actually start getting out?
Okay, I understand. I get it. And we've talked about this on another podcast where we were together. So, and I was there once, actually. So, and you said you've had this habit of choosing the right guys for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
Because they looked right at the same time. And I was married at 15. I didn't have a chance to choose the guy that I was supposed to marry or fall in love. I don't even know what that means. But let me ask you this. Why is then the woman always feeling that it's me, it's not everybody else? Because you've gone from one relationship to another and you felt this is broken. Maybe I'm the one that's breaking it. So what do you tell women in that situation?
Well, most of the time it's our family of origin. So it's the training that we got. It's the subconscious programming that we got from our family of origin. So whether it was, you know, you grew up in a family where you have to get married, you have no choice, or you grew up where, you know, there was a lot of just toxicity in the family that you grew up with. That will actually prepare us for these unhealthy relationships. If you are used to seeing men treat women badly, then you are well prepared for these types of relationships. And an interesting thing, I actually had somebody post yesterday in one of my groups. They said, well, what if you grew up in a really amazing family and you still ended up in a bad relationship? And my answer is, those happen all the time too. For some reason, there's like this pendulum that goes. There's really toxic families of origin, and then there's really amazing families of origin. The toxic family of origin prepares us for these unhealthy relationships because we're comfortable in the discomfort. As much as we say we don't like it, this is all we know. So to think of anything different feels foreign and weird for us. The other side of that is we grew up in a family of origin where people communicated with each other. They were supportive of each other. So the problem with that, which is a beautiful thing, but the problem with that is that for most of my clients that come from that, they're so used to people being honest and forthcoming that they don't know how to have healthy boundaries for people that aren't that way. So they're not used to people that treat them badly. So, and for me, I had a little bit of this weird mixture where my parents fought all the time. There was a lot of arguing. My mom would threaten to leave all the time. And there was a lot of toxicity there. But my dad, as much as he had a temper, if he said something, that was what was happening. I knew that if his word was his bond, like it was real. So I could trust him as much in all the chaos. I still knew that I could trust what he said. And so that is like a perfect way to prepare you for unhealthy relationships, because then for me, my mindset was, well, men can be trusted. They might have a temper and they might not always be nice, but you can trust them. And my growing up was women couldn't be trusted. So I didn't have a lot of female friends either. And so one of the things that I make sure that we work on with clients is teaching how to make friends. How do you have a life outside of your relationship? Because it can't be all in your relationship, because if it is, then if things go badly, you have nowhere to go. You have nowhere to fall back on to help support you if you need the support, and when you need the support. Because I mean, even in a perfect life, things will go bad at some point, not necessarily with a relationship, but just life in general. You need to have that community support.
I understand that. I get it, because when people are honest and then somebody's conniving, you don't know how to decipher that kind
Exactly.
of codes, if you will. It's because it's all about communication. So then when a woman is trying to figure out this relationship thing in the beginning, how does she know what are the signs that she should look for?
So here's the thing. And I actually just had this conversation with a client. The thing is that it's important to date and not settle for the first person who treats you nicely. So that's one thing. But there's even a before that. What a lot of people do is they end one unhealthy relationship and they jump right into another one. And when we do that, we are preparing ourselves to get into another unhealthy relationship, because we have to figure out what got us attracted or interested in this toxicity to begin with. And then we have to heal from that. So what we need to focus on is, instead of jumping into another relationship, we first need to learn who we are. Like you said, I don't know what love is. I don't know how to date. I don't know how to do those things. Well, I have women that are, in kind of a situation where they married their high school sweethearts at 17 years old, and they're 55 years old and they've never dated either. So this is actually such a common thread for so many people, where they've been married for so long. Dating, it feels so foreign. So you have to know you. So before we date, we want to make sure that we know, who am I? What am I without this relationship? What are my interests? What do I enjoy? Getting really solid and comfortable in our own skin. Having that community. What are the things that we enjoy? So like going and doing volunteer work. One of the things, this is the holiday season. So, instead of, I say to all my clients, do things that are different than what you normally would do, so that you can start creating a new life, but you also start expanding your network. So the things that, maybe normally you'd spend time for Thanksgiving with your family and eat turkey. Well, maybe this time you volunteer at a soup kitchen with, by yourself. Maybe you do things that are totally out of your comfort zone and shake it up. But all that is about learning who you are, so that you feel solid on your own 2 feet. Once you start to feel more solid there, and you've created this life, and I almost imagine it like, it's not a bubble necessarily where we're oblivious to the rest of the world, but it's this bubble of, this is my world, and I've created this world that I'm excited to wake up to. I love my life. I'm feeling very happy. I'm feeling very good. Then we start dating for educational purposes, where we start learning who would be a good fit for me, instead of how can I get someone to love me and want me. It's a very different place we're coming from if we're feeling secure in ourselves than when we are going to a place of someone, if I don't find someone to marry me, to date me, to whatever, then I'm not a good person, I'm not good enough, because the women we're always looked at as the old spinsters if we're not married. Guys, they can be doing their thing till whatever. It's a different scenario. But for women, we're looked at negatively. But we have to get out of that, because that's society. We have to get into ourselves, and it's okay to be, this is not selfish to take care of you, but get into ourselves, take care of us, and come from a place of abundance and overflow, so that when we are attracting the right types of people, we're not there to beg and prove ourselves to someone that could be a potential partner. And also that what that also does is that if things are not going well, maybe at first they seem great, it also means that if it doesn't go great, we know in our heart, and we have that support system already in place to know that we will be okay if this relationship doesn't work, and we are able to end it, even if it breaks our heart, because we know it's the best thing for us.
Right. So take the pain right now compared to later.
Exactly. And that, I have to say, is one of the biggest things. So getting to know ourselves is huge. But then the other part, I think that so many of us are avoiders. We don't want to be in pain. And our brain will try to protect us from pain. But what it does instead is it keeps us stuck in the now. So instead of avoiding, it's like going to the gym. I don't want to get up in the morning and go to the gym. That, people, I want to lose weight, but I don't want to get up and I don't want to go to the gym. But you keep doing that over years and years, you're going to gain weight. Your body's going to start to not be as healthy. You're not going to take good care of yourself. There's all these negative consequences. It doesn't happen overnight. But you start getting up and you go to the gym every day for a week. You make that 2 weeks, a month, 6 months, and it becomes a habit. Now all of a sudden you're noticing the fruits of your labor. All of those things they all build up on each other, and now you feel really good in your skin. So, these kind of things too, instead of avoiding the things that we don't want to do the things we need to do. It hurts, but then it's over, as opposed to prolonging the pain, making it last much longer, and still not getting what you want and still not being happy.
Okay, I get that. So now let's talk about what happens if you are in a toxic relationship and you know this isn't right. This is what you talked about was before figuring out who, but now we are already in it. So how do you get out of it?
Well,
what steps do you take to either make it better or get out?
So one of the things that if there's abuse, then we need to make our plans to get out. I mean because I think about it like stages of cancer. If there's physical abuse, it's going to only get worse if we stay. And that, I think, is really important. We don't want to try to figure it out. We don't want to try to make them understand that they shouldn't do that. We need to realize this is not okay, and it's not going to get better. And like cancer, once it gets to that stage 4, it gets worse. So that hands down, get help for that. But in the other places where there's a lot of arguing and frustrations, whatever, the good thing is talk to a therapist, talk to a coach, get some support, learn how to communicate. If both parties are willing and able to communicate and listen to each other, there's a chance that it can be worked on. I do, however, see a lot of people come to me and it's one person doing the work and the other person is not. Right. That's not going to make things better. You have to both come, like, oh, I've been working on the relationship for a year. And then we come down to it and they're like, oh, no. You've been working on the relationship for a year. They've been doing exactly the same thing they've been doing. So, I guess the first part would be get support. Because in our brain, we can't really see clearly when we're in it. So, that's the beginning of it. Now, if you are someone who has been a stay-at-home mom, you don't have money coming in, I would start looking at ways to make money. Women that can make money have the freedom to leave and do what they need to do. So do you need to go back to school? Do you need to take money and put it to the side? We had, I was the breadwinner, but my ex-husband and I shared a bank account, and he would question everything that I took money out for, even though I was the one making the money. And he would go out to eat every day and spend all this money, and then we'd be in the red and the negative. And I wouldn't do any of that, but I still was being questioned if I spent anything. So what I did was when I went to the supermarket, we also had a tenant, I would take money from there and just take a little extra and put that in a hiding place. If you don't have a place that's a good hiding place, give it to a friend that you trust, put it somewhere so you can start to build up. So if you ever need to leave in an emergency, have your emergency bag. I had a bag in my trunk of my car with a change of clothes, with my marriage certificate, with medical records, like certain things that were important. I had all those things in a bag in case I needed to make an emergency exit. So have that stuff prepared as well. If you are someone that is the breadwinner, then you already are a step ahead, because you can start speaking to a lawyer, you can start speaking again to a coach, you can speak to someone to help you through the emotional process of physically breaking it off, because there is such thing as trauma bonding, where when we are trauma bonded, it's literally an addiction to the unhealthy relationship. So as much as we might say, I want to leave and I know this is terrible intellectually, because we're smart women, there's also the subconscious that's saying, you can't do it, it's not possible, but it feels so good when it's nice, but it feels terrible when it's bad. And so there's all this confliction that's going on, but that's the trauma bonding. So we have to be able to break that bond, and we do that with added support. So, I think the biggest thing is doing it on your own is possible, but it's way harder because we get in our own way. Our thinking is not clear. And I'll tell you that once we actually break that trauma bond and we get out, all of a sudden, I always have the example, I have glasses, and I always feel like once I ended that relationship, it's like I got a new pair of glasses, where all of a sudden I could see better. I was like, why did I fight so much for that relationship that was terrible? Why did I stay so long? I didn't realize the world was so beautiful. I didn't realize that things were so great in the real world. Because when we're in survival mode, it's hard to see the beauty that life is when you're in survival mode. So it's helpful to have somebody on the outside to bring us back.
So also, I want to share, this is something that we both have lived with. And I wouldn't have had the courage to get out of my marriage because I didn't have the courage. And he always told me, he's never going to leave. But the kids watched. And that's another thing. Like, if you have kids, they are always watching, and they are, much as we try to keep it a secret from all of that, we are not keeping it a secret, and they see everything. They may not say anything, but they see it. So my son at the time was 10, and he said to me, Mom, you need to get out or you'll die. That's when I realized that all this time I was trying to keep very quiet about the whole thing. They were just watching me, trying to figure out what I was going to do. And at one time, he just told me this, and I was like, wow. And he was 10 at the time. And if you ask him today, he doesn't remember that. but the thing is that gave me courage to get out. So how is your family? How are your kids supporting you? I'm speaking to all the women who may or may not be in this predicament.
Well, and I'll add too, and I think you had, and I hope you don't mind me sure, but when you have the cultural background where your family might not, your extended family might not even want to talk to you anymore. So you have the loss of your extended family on top of the loss of your marriage. And so there's this added layer of, is it possible for me to get out of here? But just like you said, I'm so glad that you brought it up, is your children, as much as you feel like you're protecting them, because I have a client that always pops into mind whenever I hear someone say, my kids don't know what's going on. I had a client of mine, she's a medical doctor, super smart woman. She was dealing with a toxic relationship where it was verbally abusive. There was no physical violence, but it was verbally abusive. And where he would come in and everyone was in tears because he would yell, scream, and threaten. So they never knew, they were always like jumping. And the mom was like, oh, but I protect my children. They weren't aware of what's going on. I then was asked to work with her 2 children. And literally one of her children refused to eat a date because he was so afraid of ending up in a relationship like his mom. The son was afraid to date. The son wanted to become a doctor and heard screaming during one of the times he was doing rounds, just in classes. He wasn't even becoming a doctor yet. He heard screaming and it triggered him to being a child and hearing the screaming in his house. So as much as we think that we're protecting them, and she probably did the best she could in protecting them, but they see it. They see all, and if they don't see the actual act or whatever that's going on, they feel the energy that's going on in the room. They can tell when mom and dad aren't getting along. If you're not, being near your significant other, if you don't have a smile on your face when you see them, they see all that kind of stuff. And now, not only are you affecting your life, but your children now have to also deal with working through their triggers and working through their emotional scars of having an unhealthy relationship because of their parents. They will probably bring it in. Now they have to deal with the counseling and everything. So at some point, someone's got to stop the cycle and say, I'm not doing this and I'm not passing this along to my kids. I'm going to protect my children. and I'm going to take care of this now so that they don't have to suffer and deal with it later.
Right. So this is a very heart-wrenching, I should say, because it hurts when you speak about it, but it's happening in the world, especially now when we have holidays and money is scarce right now, things are expensive, and most relationships we know have a strain on them because of money. So communication and money is what was the biggest thing for me. And so what are the words that you would, last piece of advice that you would give to the listeners? How do women protect themselves?
So I've spoken now to divorce lawyers. I've spoken to financial advisors, and every time the answer is, when you start, get the support. So get a coach if you can get it. If you can't get it, I totally understand. But financial advisors, and there's actually specifications that you can get training in divorce financial advisors. Go find those out. And if you can't find them, reach out to me, because I have some that I recommend. But speak to them to prepare you financially for the potential of going through a divorce. Again, whether you're a stay-at-home mom, whether you're the breadwinner, whether you're both equal in the relationship, it doesn't matter. Before you even speak to a lawyer, speak to a divorce planner. There's a divorce financial planner, and they're free. They will always do a free consultation, and most of the time too, they're not even going to charge you for anything, because they get kickbacks on whatever investments and stuff like that you make. So that would be the first thing, hands down. The second thing is, you can look into, now you'd be surprised, but you can look into mediation if funding is very low. Mediation will very often work very well. You actually don't have to pay any lawyer to get a divorce. You can actually go through the state and do the paperwork yourself. Mediation will help, and you'd be surprised how many people will actually take the mediator, even when there's abuse and everything else, because they don't want to spend any more money. If it's going to get worse and you think it's going to really escalate, then get yourself a lawyer. And sometimes if you call your local domestic violence hotline, they can give you a pro bono, at least for a few meetings, but speak to a lawyer and make sure that you have that in place. So those are all things, like, any way you can get that support, do that. And also, let people know if there is abuse or you are concerned for your safety, and don't minimize things, because I was not as concerned for my safety, even though my first husband had put his hands around my throat, and I was minimizing it. So know that when you're looking to leave, there are times where you can put yourself in danger. So if you have your one female friend that you can talk to, you have a confidant, let them know that you're starting this process, so they're at least aware that this is going on, and have your to-go bag in the trunk just in case you need to get out in a hurry.
Okay, so how do people find you, Stephanie?
Well, you can go, I have a podcast as well. It's called Toxic Love Transformation. You can go anywhere that podcasts are streamed to see that. You also can go to Being Loved Should Hurt. And you can also go to my Facebook group, Toxic Love Transformation, and I offer free trainings. I have a bunch of free resources. If somebody wants to pay for my services, they can, but I really, really focus on giving a lot of free stuff, because I know what it feels like. I know how scary it is, and I don't want you to feel like you're doing this alone.
Okay. Well, this is Thanksgiving week, so we don't want anybody to take any drastic steps. However, if you are in a relationship, you need to start looking at getting out if you want to do that. We are not here to advise you in any way, right? But we will tell you, because we've walked the walk, that it doesn't ever get better. Yes.
And I just want to add too, I'm no guru. I'm no better than anyone else that is listening to this. And if I can get out, then you can too, and you deserve much more than what you've been dealing with.
Thank you. And so everybody, now you have some tools, and you know what? You may not need these tools, but there is a friend who may need this. So share this podcast, share this information that we've shared with you, because you never know who needs it. And you can say, you know what? I listened to this podcast, go listen to this. And she shares a lot of things. Now, two ladies from two different walks of life have gone through the same thing. So it's not a cultural thing. It's just a man and a woman thing, I think. And I think it's the attitude of people. And most of it, I think, is communication when it comes to relationships. So if you want to get things better, go ahead and reach out to Stephanie. Otherwise, reach out and have a sorry. This is a sore subject. Otherwise, go ahead, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And if you like what you hear, please come back next week and we will share with you a new guest with a new insight, with a new niche. And let's talk about that too. If you like, go ahead and leave us comments as to what you liked about this episode, 1, or what you didn't like, 2, and what can we bring you next time? What kind of speakers do you want to see? And that would be amazing. Until we see you next week, have a good week. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of The Niche Navigator. We hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as we did. If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. Your support really helps us keep bringing you amazing content. For more updates and behind-the-scenes glimpses, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and all our other social platforms. The links are in the description below. We'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you there. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next week.